Coming up in this video, opening spiritual portals you closed. Understanding psychic portals.
So, did you close your gifts down as a kid?
You want to open them back up? Learn why you close them down and how to open psychic portals that you closed. We'll give you a better understanding of spiritual portals and your gifts. So if you have any questions as we go relating to the topic of this video, drop them in the comments.
And if we don't get to your questions live, we will answer any questions on the replay. And while that's going to be entertaining with some free juicy information, we do have an offer at the end to take your metaphysical business from basic to bodacious. Guys, if you are just getting to know us, I'm Heather.
And I'm David.
We're going to talk a little bit about mediumship and a lot of different things today, but about psychic portals and what those are and what happens. And we've had the opportunity the last 11 years together to work with and train quite a few young mediums,
by young, we're talking less than 18.
We're talking, under 18, like teenage mediums, child mediums, whose parents
I think the youngest was like 6.
Well, whose parents kind of recognized that what their child was going through was very familiar to what they went through.
Absolutely. Almost always the mom or the dad of the child medium had been shut down by their parents who had no idea what to do. If their kid was crazy or if their kid was a portal for satanic forces. Either way, they had to shut that down.
So it's been very interesting because we've been able to go through a lot of the parents on their journeys of opening up, along with helping their kid figure out what was happening to them, which is really fun because you see both sides.
It's healing for both of them.
So that's been kind of one of the fun things that we do in our private clients, but a quick definition of a psychic portal, just to simplify it.
As opposed to an energy vortex.
Right, which is basically, energy vortex is like stona, different places in the earth where you have the inflow and the outflow of Earth's electromagnetic energy.
Think of it like the Earth's chakras and meridians.
And it's powerful. And we feel it because we plug into that, right? Yeah. Because we have chakras and meridians too. But the psychic portal is that a psychic portal describes your inner connection to your spidey senses, your inner world, your micro senses.
Your little senses.
Yeah. So that's a brief definition of what it is.
What the heck are psychic portals? How do we close them down and how do we open them back up, right?
We're doing this live today to follow up the one we did, I think back in January this year, 2019, on becoming a medium later in life, which that was inspired by the parents who come in and are like, I'm opening back up, right? And opening spiritual portals that you close because we have gotten a lot of questions on that particular video, and we thought we would drop 1 or 2 practical ideas on how to overcome the fear of opening back up.
So go check that one out after this one. The link is down below. Now it's time for the good stuff.
Trying to give him his moment.
Now it's time for the good stuff.
I'm going to do some fancy things over here.
Okay.
I'm trying to be a backup dancer. I'm really failing at it. So here we go, guys.
Absolutely.
So tip number 1, let's talk about how you shut down. How do you shut it down in the first place? We talked about this in the other video, but we're going to again look at it from a little bit different. So first, you may not realize it now because it's been a lifelong habit of not feeling out of control, but you have way more control over your energy than you think.
Absolutely. You only lose control of your own energy when you lose control of your emotions, or when you give that power of control over to somebody else's idea of how you're supposed to show up in the world.
And so we say someone else's idea because often we've given our power away to an idea that happened a long time ago. So we're giving our power away even though we might not realize it. It's like going back to that old idea. So this seems simple enough, right? As an adult, but we spend a lot of time trying to undo as adults what was put in place as a kid. And that's kind of what the opening is about, right?
Right. So for instance, if a parent sees a child showing sensitivity and the parent is afraid, what they end up doing is vomiting that fear onto the child by saying that it is bad, it is evil, it is scary.
And now the child thinks that they are the monster. Because when you're talking to a child, they're just like little sponges. So when they're just kind of feeling this wall of emotion coming towards them, so they're taking that personally. And we as adults go, don't take it personally, don't take it personally. But as a child, everything is personal because you're vulnerable and you're learning. And so the people, the adults that adult over you need to be highly responsible of your emotions. So they think that now they are the monster instead of learning that their mind is working as designed.
And the child mind itself is much more open to more data points than the adult mind because it is in this hyper learning stage, okay, gathering data for all of its base operating system before adulthood sets in.
So, right, when adulthood sets in, you've kind of got this operating system that is on autopilot.
Right.
You know, because for your first part of your life, several years, it's being created and now it's on autopilot.
But it doesn't have to be scary.
Most kids sense things. Okay, they're not all little. It's like you have these child mediums that become obvious, but most kids sense things. But all kids are new humans, right? And new human things are scary.
So that is when a parent steps in a perfect world to show them that it's not scary. And here's what it actually is. If the parent knows that this thing is not a scary thing, okay, poop comes out of your butt and that's normal, then it serves to help the child not be afraid of this thing that's happening.
I'm sure, I don't remember specifically, but I'm sure it was terrifying the first time I pooped. I mean, just think about it, you know? I mean, these are like things that are potentially horrifying. So feeling energy to a highly sensitive little sponge is like, oh my gosh, what is that? So for instance, I never verbalized my ability to see the aura until I was in my teenage years, because it seemed like a natural thing that why should I say to my, like, hey, do you have eyes? Can you see? You know, it's like, why would you even discuss that? So maybe if I had someone, because I had parents that were very open to, the spirit world. If I had someone who thought it was weird and was like, oh, that's weird, you're broken, or you're imagining it, and I might have shut it down. But because no one ever did, I never gave any power to that thought. Other things, yes. I had other neuroses to work out, right? But not that specific thing.
Let's see. Ori says, by opening spiritual portals or the third eye, will we be aware of negative forces or energy as well? That's kind of like saying, if I open my eyes, am I going to see bad things too?
Well, you see bad things and good things all the time. It's not that you see bad things or good things. It's how you respond to the bad things or good things.
Right. So it's like, if I drive a car, am I going to see accidents?
Am I going to see different colors? So it's how we respond to them.
Well, yeah, but I mean, I like the car analogy because if you learn how to drive a car, you're probably going to get in less accidents. If you go and you get into a vehicle and you don't know how to operate it, you're probably going to get into more accidents, okay? Whereas if you witness an accident, that doesn't mean that you have to be a party to the accident or respond as if it were your accident.
Okay, so we just went and saw It Chapter 2.
Yes.
It was an awesome, incredible movie. Had I watched that years ago before I'd kind of gotten over my fears of that kind of energy, I would have been like, terrified Donna's going to invite evil spirits and all this bad stuff's going to happen. But now I go and look at the movie and I'm like, I could perceive it as good or bad, but I'm just seeing, the negative things that are happening and the positive things. I'm seeing people overcome their fears. I'm seeing it, the movie, sat and watched it as like, oh, this is sort of like a shamanic journey into the underworld. Yeah. They're like going into the underworld. They're facing their scary demons. They're conquering it with their power. So
and their teamwork.
It's how you react to it, which we're going to get into actually, thank you, in just a minute.
Vanessa says, thanks for saying that about how you react.
Yes, that is so important.
I have been avoiding to not have that image in my head. Absolutely.
It is always how you perceive it, right? Yeah. I mean, we say negative, we see negative and positive in our world all the time with our physical eyes, you know? So why should we react any differently to something
psychic senses or anything like that?
It is absolutely not different. It's how you react to it. So when I was talking about in that first tip about how we respond with our energy, that's what I'm talking about. It's you have way more control over your energy, and it is all controlled by how you think about what you see. Yep. It's controlled by your thoughts and your emotions.
Tammy says that there's a kid in my son's class that told the teacher that she hears things in her room and she sees things, and her mom told her she was lying. I overheard the kid telling the teacher. Wow.
Yeah, so horrible. Don't trust yourself is the message, right?
Yes. Megan says, yes, my mother told me to imagine that I was receiving my information from a bad entity behind me, filling my mind with things. Wow. That really confused me because I felt like I was receiving info from something positive. And those are examples of like some of the things that we have to go back and rewire and kind of retrain ourselves. And we'll get to that. We got a nice tip here in a minute to get to that.
So I love the comment about the parent telling you that you're hearing this negative information, because it's so important to, like, for a child, especially, like, what is that voice telling you? I mean, it could be a positive thing that you're hearing, or it could be your own inner voice telling you stuff that you need to listen to. So, and, you know, there's all sorts of different approaches.
Right. But instead of closing the kid down with fear, helping them to understand and learn the tools on how to distinguish between good things that you're hearing or bad things that you're hearing, whether it's your inner voice or whether it's actually a spirit, it doesn't matter. How to distinguish, that's an opportunity to teach this child, how do you tell between good and bad?
Well, I mean, okay, let me give you an example. I know we're like spinning off before we
a little bit,
but it's okay. Let me give you an example. And you might have a voice in your head as a child that's telling you, oh, you're a terrible person. That's telling you bad things about yourself in your head, right? And so the child is immediately going to start to parrot the things that they might hear around them,
whether it's from people or voices in their head.
Right. So sometimes that voice becomes a voice that you're speaking back to yourself to protect you from punishment from a parent or something like that in your environment. It can be very complex. So if you can face that voice and be like, okay, why do I think that I'm a terrible person? What is it? And just go down the rabbit hole of what the voice is telling you. And you'll eventually get to something positive. But if you squash it down, you're just like, I don't want to look at that. I don't want to look at that. Well, it's just going to get bigger and bigger.
Absolutely. Just like all the monsters in your closet. If you don't deal with the monsters in your closet, they get bigger and bigger and scarier and end up, I don't know, coming through the closet and murdering you,
eating your head.
Like the sewer monster.
So,
Raven Fire Phoenix. Hello, please ignore my nerdy name. Thanks. Your info has really helped. Thank you. Good to have you. Good to connect. And thank you for reaching out and saying hi today.
And I like your nerdy name.
I love nerdy names. And
I'm
ravens and fires and phoenixes.
Tip number 2. Let's talk about what is that mysterious psychic portal. And this is where we're going to talk about how some of those fears get in between you and your psychic portal, right?
So it does help to get that psychic portal open again, not just by working on the fears, but by understanding what the heck it is first.
Let's demystify it right now. Okay, so first,
I don't have a mister.
So symbolically, it is that place where you tune in and sense things that are not that are out of range of the human senses, right? And I say out of range, and they're not really out of range because you are always sensing things on the earth as a human. So are they really out of range?
Yep.
They're simply not the sensations that you are paying attention to with your everyday big senses.
Yep. So they're like little senses or subtle senses. And we're going to break it down into 3 parts, 1, 2, and 3. Okay. 1 is the mind. First off is the function of the mind and function of the senses. Okay. It's a part of your brain. It's just how it works. We all have it. It's
your body and your nerves and your energy and your electricity.
All of that there. Just a function. This is not good or bad.
We all have it. It just depends how much we notice or pay attention to. This is not good or bad. It is just a function. It is not a doorway to Satan's underground nightclub. Let me just make that clear. Although that might be fun if you're...
I want to go to Satan's underground nightclub. I want to see what that's all about.
Curiosity.
Unless it's in LA and then it's maybe a dungeon and I don't know necessarily if I want to.
I've been to an LA dungeon. It's a wild trip.
Wild trip.
Not that I was participating, but it was
Number 2 is fear versus play. We're talking about reaction here. Number 2 is the reaction.
Yes.
Are you operating from fear or are you operating from play?
So imagine here's your function. It's your foundation. It's neutral. It's neither good nor bad. And then you've got your reaction on top of it, which determines how you see your function, how you see your body, right? So at a very young age, this function shows up, and if it shows up and it's met with a play energy or a fear energy from those around you, this is how your adult self now responds to the function.
Absolutely.
When the function shows up.
So here's why. As animals, okay, we're wild animals. We're not quite as wild, but we're animals as we're young, right? So we look to the parents to show us how to hunt and how to protect ourselves, how to keep ourselves safe from the threats of the world. If those adult animals are reacting with fear to things that we're doing or things that we're experiencing,
then we better run, because Daddy Bear can't take care of me.
Yeah.
I certainly can't.
So
Daddy Bear is scared of it. I need to
Right.
run too.
So this monster in my head or this monster under my bed is going to come and kill me because Daddy says so.
So
Daddy's afraid of it, so I should be afraid of it.
think about your parents when you're little, right? They can do anything. they can protect you, but when there's something that threatens them,
Then you better run fast.
you're in trouble.
Mhm. Or play dead.
You are not safe. So this is, I mean, it sounds pretty primal and simple, but this is what we're responding to as adults, to unknown energy. So number 3 is the foundation.
Right.
Okay.
A lot of people try to develop their gifts by utilizing ritual and underusing stabilization. Okay.
So a ritual is something that symbolically puts you in touch with your inner function, your inner mystery, such as lighting incense on an altar or something like that. Like you light the incense, it symbolizes that it's not the magic itself, the lighting of the incense,
It's
magic,
a shortcut and a key.
the magic of whatever that is, saying a prayer, lighting the incense, putting your crystals on, that even though they have kind of an energy of their own, it's a shortcut to that inner mystery. Okay. It opens the door. It's like a key, but that's not the foundation.
Right. The stabilizing process is what clears up the static of fear and replaces it with play and confidence. We do a lot of stabilizing in our group, in our Zen Ed Academy. We're going to give you more about that at the end, but we help people to stabilize instead of operate just purely on ritual alone.
So here's one of the things we talk about in our work is that a lot of people in our industry use ritual to become the stabilizing process. But if the fear is in there, all you're doing with the ritual is you're reinforcing the fear. So if you do the stabilizing processes, which take more time and discipline, then your ritual becomes this joyful shortcut. I'm going to put on my crystal because it feels good, not because I've got to protect myself from the scary underworld.
And Raven says ritual reinforces belief. I love how you put that, because that's exactly what happens. If your if your belief is full of play and fun, then the ritual reinforces the fun and the play. If your belief is operating from fear, then the ritual reinforces the fear.
Right. So if you're putting on all your crystals because you got to protect yourself from all the stuff, then your ritual is just going to be heavy and you can't run very fast when the ghost is coming to eat your head. But if you're like, I'm going to put on a crystal because it feels really good, it becomes a symbol to connect you to the joyous mystery and anyway, it's joyful. So we are going to give you an easy stabilizing process in a minute to start unraveling those fears in the next tip.
Matter of fact, we had an amazing experience in the group yesterday actually. Somebody was dealing with a confidence issue and kind of like put something out there in some other group and got just completely obliterated with this thing that they were putting out there. And what happened was they were afraid to even open up in the group. So we kind of egged them on and kind of prompt them a little bit to open up. And the overwhelming support and confidence that person got from every person in that group just blew my mind. I mean, I know that our people are cool. Our Zen heads are amazing, but witnessing this in action, just like dominating this person's confidence and making them like rise up from within, helping them to rise up within and find their confidence and stand on their own 2 feet. And they ended up looking at the comments that had obliterated them, and they started laughing at them afterwards. They were like, oh my God, I can't believe I was in such a reaction.
I mean, that's about your creativity and your art, but it really is the same thing, because all of those responses to what happens to us kind of come from the same place in your head. But I want to poll you guys out there right now and ask you.
Poll time.
As a child, were you free to play, or were you consumed by fear with your gifts? Now, I was sort of a combination. So
some parts were open and some parts were closed.
Yeah, it's just kind of crazy. So my parents were like accepting of it, but there were also parameters on it. They also had some fear around some of it. So not about my gift specifically, but about the spirit world. So the fear was never directed at me. I was always respected for, you have spiritual gifts. Let's nurture those. They didn't quite know exactly how to nurture them in the way I needed, like in my further education. But the fear more came from the fear of their fears of other things.
So let us
sense.
know in the comments if you were more free to play or if you were locked down as a kid, okay? Alejandra says, first time here.
Yes.
I'm a struggling psychic. I can do all the basics, but I have too many doubts. How can I fix myself?
Oh, we got you. We got you.
Tried too hard and taken 2 online courses and I'm still stuck on stupid. I have always had gifts, but never knew why or how can anyone help.
I think Lord.
Absolutely. Lord says, Alejandro, the Academy is amazing. I have grown so much in the past few weeks. It's worth a try. And Heather and David are amazing at answering questions and pointing you in the right direction. Yes, I would definitely recommend Alejandro, and we'll have that offer for you at the end. I would recommend at least taking a look at the offer, see if it's something that's right for you, because we provide so much support in there. Rachel says, when I was young, I was made to believe that all this wasn't real and it was all suppressed. Absolutely. Terry says, people are still telling me I don't know what I'm messing with, that like this is evil.
Again, their reaction.
These are programs that kind of tell you their fears. It's up to you to decide whether you're going to let that fear dominate you or change it up and take control of it. Tammy says, I was told last week from a lady that I was confused and her heart was heavy for me because I was on this journey. Funny story. I had the same situation with my mom before she passed. We had like a 2-hour conversation and she was concerned for my soul, okay, because I was doing this kind of work. And at the end, I let her go on and let her go on. And at the end, I was like, you realize you've spent 2 hours concerned for my soul. Meanwhile, we've wasted 2 hours that we could talk about your garden. We could talk about how your day was. We could talk about what you've got going on. What kind of activities have you got going on? So those were things that kind of like she was concerned for my soul. There's nothing wrong with my soul, Mom. We're good. Now that she's on the other side and we've built a different kind of a connection and different kind of relationship, she's like, okay, I get it. But her human self was so operating in that fear and wrapped up in that fear that she couldn't see me as an individual, as a person, as a human. My sister says, if I remember right, Mom knew it was there, but we were told to not engage, like to be weary of it.
I love how your sister's online, like,
I know, like I'm talking about mom stories.
Really happened. Yeah. So Tammy, it's interesting because that lady with her like, oh, my heart's so heavy for you. I mean, how drama is that? She just gave you all her energy. So she's like giving her energy away in kind of funny ways too. So let's get into a step that will help you guys.
Kimberly says, I'm so much more confident with your guys' guidance. Absolutely. Same thing happened to me in another group. It was really discouraging. You guys be careful of those other Facebook groups. Absolutely, Megan.
I find that a lot of the Facebook groups out there, and which is why we created our tribe, because I find a lot of the people in those groups that are running it don't have the education, but they have a lot of ego. So it's like, I can do these magical things. Well, everybody can run around the block, but not everybody understands the basics, the techniques, the education, and the ethics that go with the practice. That's it.
Okay. Raven also says, how do you know if it's your thought or your imagination? It was like talking to myself when I tried it, but I got very relaxed and it felt different. How do you know if it's imagination or intuition, your thought or your imagination? That takes practice and building up data points, solid training. I mean, you really want to look at it. Solid training is going to be the key that's going to more rapidly help you between understanding if you're just making shit up or if it's actual stuff coming through. And that comes with practice and proper training.
So let's get into tip number 3, because a little bit I'm going to talk about that. So how to change that fear into play.
Right.
And Raven, there is a stabilizing process in mediumship that we call the sitting work.
We also call it meditation for mediums.
And sitting work is the traditional term. I like using that because
I like meditation.
He likes meditation for mediums, but I think that distills it and dilutes it a little bit because the traditional is sitting work, and it kind of takes it out of the realm of just your meditating because it's more active. But it's work for professional mediums that they use it to stabilize the function that we talked about. The function of mind. And this is probably what would suit you to learn how to do this because it will help you get in tune with what you are. Is it imagination? Is it intuition? But gives you the space to really stabilize it. So that's the like professional practice that mediums use. But for the person that is just opening their psychic portal, there's steps you need to do first.
So you need to start with what stands between you and the trusting of your function. Okay. That is fear.
Right.
What are you afraid of? what was your child self afraid of or made to be afraid of? Okay.
So this takes some exploration, because at this point in your life as an adult, your child self, your inner child, is integrated into your adult mind. You're reacting with your child mind all the time. You just don't realize it.
So notice the fears that arise when you start exploring this kind of thing. So, and then ask yourself, are these mine or are they something that I was taught? Okay.
So the function, here's what it's going to look like. The function happens, you feel something, you sense something, you see something, and you have a reaction in your body. Okay, that's a reaction that is instantly programmed, coming from somewhere. If you hadn't been pre-programmed, you just might go, oh, interesting. What is that? It's just like a breeze you feel. You don't freak out when you feel a breeze at the beach and go, okay, but we do the same thing. It's just another form of energy. So you talk to yourself. So are they adult fears, which might be, can I pay my mortgage? Which underneath that
might
could
still be child fears.
Right. Or are they fears of a child? Like, is there a monster under my bed? So you have to slow the fear down when you react and start asking the questions.
And keep asking the what and the why questions. What are you afraid of? Why are you afraid of it? Okay. Is this an adult fear or a child fear?
Are you afraid of the scary monster? Have you personified this unknown thing or this unknown energy long time ago? And now when you sense something similar, the reaction is automatic. And all of a sudden the image of scary monster comes in your head. I mean, that's how the brain works. It is fast.
The way to get out of that is to notice what it is that you're feeling, and then become the supportive adult to your own child self. Guide that child in the way that you wanted to be guided, or would if this were your child. Okay. Help them open the closet, help them pull back the curtain and make friends with those monsters.
Tell them the Poltergeist story.
Which one?
When you were a foster kid.
Okay. So yeah, that's an awesome story. So when I was a kid, I was in foster homes for about a year, 2 years, something like that. My mom was going through some tough time, and she ended up, putting us up into for foster care. So I went to a foster home, and that foster home, there was, it was around about the time that Poltergeist came out, right? So I watched it and I freaked out. I was like maybe 8, 9, something like that. And I freaked out, and they were like, okay, I understand that you're afraid. And they sat and talked with me about it. They were like, okay, these are costumes. This is makeup. There's nothing really to be afraid of, but I understand that you're afraid. So what you could do is you can keep watching it until that fear goes away, until you start seeing the other things underneath it, until you start seeing the costumes and you start seeing the makeup and you start seeing all of these pieces. So I must have watched that at least 50 times, probably in a weekend. Okay, maybe not that many, but I kept watching it and kept watching it because I trusted them. I eventually did break through that fear as this little kid. And I was like, you know what? This is amazing. And that is one of the greatest things that I ever got, because since then I've been able to watch the scariest movie. And I'm just like, wow, that's interesting. Instead of, I mean, obviously jump scares where they cheat, that doesn't count. But being able to watch a movie without that fear anymore is one of the most liberating things that I had. And I got that at a young age because somebody listened, because somebody supported me, because somebody taught me how to overcome my fear.
Well, all our descriptions of demons and ghosts and the things that are scary are expressions of what we're afraid of inside. And we have to personify them in order to battle them, right? And every movie is about this. So talk to your inner child, because these new senses that child once felt are scary. You haven't felt them before. You were a little kid. They're a new sense. You've never felt them in exactly the same in this way, right? So I mean, right, like I said, the sensation of pooping can be scary when you're little. But parents are not telling their kids that some evil monster is coming out of their butt. Right? Don't look in the toilet. It's a scary poop monster. Right? Maybe your parent did. Then you're probably on the wrong forum.
Right. And if that were the case, I mean, that's an example of how we can screw our kids up. If we told them that poop was monsters, they would be scared of their own body. Same thing when they're talking about this function of mind is something scary, you're going to be afraid of it.
Well, if you look at cultures that, are maybe closer to the earth and are more primitive, they have myths and stories around the energies and a way to integrate the children and to face their fears. And we just kind of don't have that in the West. So I think when these
Except for on Google.
right, when these things come up, we have this like, we don't have a culture around it that supports kind of what a lot of kids go through. So I hope that makes sense. You know, it's a question we get a lot, especially because as adults go through trauma, their gifts might start to open up. They might become sensitive to sensations that they didn't want to look at before.
Right. And Aaron says, wow, was only talking about Salem's Lot today. I watched it on my own around 6 or so, frightened the life out of me. Absolutely. If you were to go back and watch that today, you probably wouldn't be as frightened first off. And if you are, you can continue watching it until you're no longer triggered by whatever that thing is. So Tasha says, my parents didn't understand what I was going through. Neither did I. Spirits used to mess with me when I go to sleep. I could hear them coming. My mother said throwing salt under your bed to stop the spirits from bothering you. That did not work.
Because that is a ritual. It is not a stabilizing process. Right. That's what I mean by ritual and stabilizing process. So using salt, doing all that stuff and blessing your house, it's going to be powerful if the reaction is play.
Yes.
Right.
If you have a stabilized foundation underneath it, if you have confidence in your own abilities, then the rituals can have a better effect than just using them to, throw salt, don't look at it, throw salt. That's not going to be as effective as, okay, you're a demon, you're a monster, you're a whatever. Here, have some salt, go away.
They're like, thanks, I'll put it on my taco chips.
Yeah. So we want to know.
Are you more excited now that you have these tips? Because we really do like to clear it up, get you safer and more confident with your own abilities. Feel the play energy is so important. It really is. If just going into it with the play energy solves a million problems.
Right. So have we cleared up some mysteries or busted some myths? Because it is a revolution.
We're fighting back against lost fairies and unicorns running amok, causing chaos and wreaking havoc. We love them both, but sometimes they drink too much love and light and puke rainbow frosting on the carpet. Super
hard to get out of the carpet. It is not pretty, but we are on a mission to crack the code. And we want to shout out one of our Zen heads.
One of our Zen heads, Shelly, shared her experience with us recently on the Google machine. And she said, awesome, loving, powerful experience. These guys are individually and collectively masterful. They are generous in spirit and work with well-timed, appropriate humor.
Mostly.
I'm going to quote that because sometimes it's not so appropriate. Sincerity and professionalism the whole way. Even though we joke and we really are serious about what we do.
We are very serious about our work.
I went on the healing journey I needed, a privilege to have the two work simultaneous with seamlessly integrated physical, spiritual, and creative tools. They worked gently and deliberately to go as deep as I needed and bring me back to a grounded, clear space safely. Can't wait to go again. Big props, H&D. Thank you, Shelly.
Absolutely.
We love you.
And the thing with that I love the most is we have the ability to walk people into and through their underworld, to face those monsters, to pull back the curtain, to look into the closet and see what those monsters really are, and to help them overcome the fear so that they can finally make friends with their function of mind.
We have learned that self-growth and developing your superpowers go together like sushi, Sapporo, and sake.
And that is why we created Zen-Ed Academy, to bridge that gap.
Are you tired of mediumship advice that is way too complicated?
Are you tired of people telling you that the intuitive arts are satanic?
Yes. Are you tired of people telling you that light workers and healers are all crazy?
Are you ready for psychic and mediumship training that does not scare the crap out of you? If so, Zen-Ed Academy is the rebel base. Rebel base. Gotta love that. Rebel base.
That's where the
revolution begins.
That's
Absolutely.
where it starts. So
no, that's where
it's happening.
That's where it's happening right now.
So Zen-Ed Academy is where the science of self-growth meets the magic of mysticism. Real information without all the unicorn poop or being scared the poop comes out of your butt.
Yes. Don't be scared of your own booty. It's okay.
I told you, sometimes appropriate, sometimes borderline, sometimes where's the line. Zen-Ed Academy is our inner circle where we jack you into the ZRG mainframe so you can finally conquer your inner supervillain.
Click the link in the description.
And that's going to get you on the way to increasing your range of abilities and finally making friends with the monster under the bed. He's cute.
He's so cute. All of the info is down below. If you still have any questions, comment with a hashtag #TellMeMore or send a message on Facebook at Zen Rose Garden or DM on IG. If you like this video, hit that like button 5 times.
If you have any questions, let us know in the comments. Before I can see we have a lot today and we have a lot to do. So that's where we get ideas for new videos.
Absolutely. And for more mind hacking pro tips.
Yes, be sure to subscribe.
And click the bell to turn notifications on
So you're the first to know
when we drop a new video.
or go live.
And we know that time is a valuable and precious resource, and the fact that you guys have chosen to spend that with us, but most importantly for yourselves, leveling up your skills, we absolutely honor and appreciate that. I did want to touch on one thing really quick. Terry says, I'm afraid I will not be able to put enough time into the studies. The wonderful thing about Zen Ed Academy is that the courses are on replay. So you get to go at your own pace with the courses. We have one section for the courses. We also have the other section for the community. So we have our Zen Heads and our entire Zen Head tribe that hangs out in the Facebook community. The courses are available on Teachable. You've got those, you've got access to those. Anytime you go at your own pace, there's no rush. Chill out.
Fun.
So thank you guys for watching, and we will see you in the next video.
See you in the next video, which could be sooner than you think, knowing us.